Karl set his gauntlets off to the side and took a combat stance that he had learned from Rita on the first day. At least he now knew how to throw a punch without hurting himself, but they would have to see how the actual match went. The instructor threw a sudden punch, and Karl swatted it aside as Rita had told him, then counterattacked with a punch of his own, which the instructor simply sidestepped to evade. For a man who couldn't be an elite, he was insanely agile, and Karl's follow-up punch also missed, making him think that Rita had been taking it even easier on him than he had first suspected. The instructor's knee caught Karl in the midsection, forcing him back, but he swung his leg out in a sweep, trying to knock the instructor over. He misjudged the range, but being down low let him block the next knee and tackle the instructor, who was only a little taller than Karl was. That turned out to be the wrong move, as the man caught him, and then suddenly Karl was spinning through the air to land on his back. Ew! Dust puffed up around him as the wind left his lungs and Karl gasped, but rolled to his feet. Not bad, kid. I've got a good idea of how you like to fight now, so we will put you with the mixed martial arts group. Those stand-up fighters do well against soldiers, but it looks like you'll be better in bar brawls and nastier fights against monsters. It might seem counterintuitive, but with your speed and power, a punch to the head will stun many common monsters. And grappling skills can be adapted to keep their claws away from you. It's not an offensive art. You have your ranged attacks for that. But if they get past that, I think we can teach you to defend yourself. Somehow, punching a magical beast in the face seemed like an awful idea. But if the option came down to that or being bitten, he supposed it wasn't all that bad. Rita, come over here and give us a hand. Your student needs to learn the basics of the style, and we've already got an even number of students. Sergeant Rita looked like she had been prepared to sit this class out, but when she was called, she didn't resist. Not many of these new students would be Karl's match anyhow, and it would just be bullying for him to spar with the ones who didn't receive a large initial physical boost. Once again, Karl found himself headed back to the cafeteria for dinner, totally exhausted, sore in every muscle and barely able to walk. But the memory water was working, and he could recall each of the 50 techniques that he had been shown that day with perfect clarity, along with the proper way to use them. After a few more weeks of training, so his body remembered it as well, he might even be able to consider himself a trained amateur fighter. Karl sat down alone at a table, but he was soon joined by other members of the unarmed combat class. Man, you won the lottery with that awakening, didn't you? It's the first week, but you're already so fast, and you even got a personal trainer. One of the boys from the mixed martial arts group greeted him. Karl laughed. I got a personal trainer because my marking is different from any of the others, and they had no idea what sort of skill I was going to get. So I was tossed a personal trainer, and we're just guessing our way through it. Most of you guys should have gotten the grappler or monk marks, right? The open hand or the staff over the fist? The small group at the table nodded. Yeah, the initial skills are crap, but at least it was easy to awaken. All you need to do is punch something, and I managed that before I even got out of bed. I gave a fist bump in joy and hit the shelf, and that was enough to awaken my mark. Plus, we get a load of extra stamina. Even if we can't get to the most powerful ranks, we can at least grow up to be popular with the ladies. One of the other boys laughed. It's better than nothing. But sitting around all day talking about magic symbols like the mages sounds like much more fun than working my butt off learning martial arts and body strengthening skills. Your head hurts trying to do basic math. You'd never survive as a mage. Another student teased. It has to be easier than getting beat up every day. I'm a lover, not a fighter. The boy complained. We all know you've never done that either, so you might as well learn to fight. Everyone laughed. While Karl lay in bed, Wondering how he was going to deal with the mage class in the morning, Hawk was busily finishing absorbing the wind gem that he had been given. With the level difference between the wind speed Hawk and the stone, it should be giving him all sorts of benefits. But after the first stone, which brought him to the awakened level, there wasn't much change. His mana levels were steadily growing, which was pulling Karl up with him, but nothing as shocking as the first stone. It was with great regret that the generous offer of resources was wasted that Karl fell asleep, only to be awakened before dawn as a surge of magic flowed through his body. Skill gained. Windshield. The absorption of the stone had granted Hawk a new skill, though the new spell was unavailable to Karl, at least for now. Now that's more like it. Another spell for you, and that is one that a normal Windspeed Hawk wouldn't manage to learn. Congratulations! Karl cheered for the bird, who was already settling back down to sleep. It had managed to comprehend better magic with the help of the stone, and now it had no intention of being awake while it wasn't hungry. Unfortunately for Karl, he wasn't so lucky, and the excitement kept him awake for hours, letting him get back to sleep just before the alarm went off to get ready for breakfast. "You're looking chipper this morning. Aren't you sore?" one of the boys from the combat training asked. "I recover pretty quickly. It's all just a matter of eating enough to keep up with your needs." Karl laughed as he pointed to the plate in front of him. After the breakthrough yesterday, his appetite had grown much larger, and again this morning, his clothes were a size too small. Before he went for training, he was going to have to go to the supply room and get new uniforms that actually fit. Karl made his way to the laundry room, where the sign said they could apply for new uniforms, and was greeted by a very large woman in a raincoat. "What do you need, then? A bit early in the day for laundry. It won't be ready until later, and I'll put it in your room," she announced. "Actually, I need uniforms that fit. I've been growing like crazy since I arrived, and neither of the ones I was given fits anymore. I can't even do up my shoes. I'm standing on the heel." Karl replied. "Ha! Right then. I'll get you sorted out. Just bring the others down to me later." The laundry woman came back a few seconds later with 2 uniforms in fresh plastic bags and a pair of boots, plus a pair of shoes and sandals. "If you turn out to be one of those giants, then you might need the sandals later. Just try to keep things in good condition so I can issue them to the other students once they're all washed. Once you're settled through your growth phase, you should be fine." Karl returned to his room to change, and then went down to meet Rita for their morning visit with the mages. "Hey, Hawk, which one do you think is more mana efficient, Rend or Windshield?" he asked. "Rend, of course, but Windshield can block big things and water balls. Stupid water balls," Hawk replied. Karl wasn't sure what the water had done to him. The bird had been sleeping most of the morning yesterday, but there was a chance that the young bird was just moody and needed more attention. "Why don't you come out and sit on my shoulder for the morning? We can block water balls together," Karl suggested, and Hawk was instantly out, sitting on the shoulder of his coat while impatiently rocking, waiting for them to get to work. "I take it that Hawk is going to join us for the day?" Rita asked. "He was feeling a bit caged in, waiting to be able to do something other than sleep and wait. I think it will be good training for him as well, and there are plenty of spells for him to block. Don't worry, he knows to block the spells, not to attack the casters."
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.